Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today is the moment all 13 of you have been waiting for. Finally, another Snare of the Month video. And this month I have something very special for you. I kind of say that every month, but then again, my snares are pretty special, like this drum of today, which also happens to be the only vintage snare drum in my collection as it is now, and it is a Ludwig Acrolite from the 1970s. I already did a Snare of the Month video on a Ludwig metal snare, which would be my Ludwig Supraphonic, the 100 years anniversary edition snare that I have right there at the moment. So for more detailed information about Ludwig snares, make sure to check that video out where I talk a lot more about those things. The link is of course in the description box. This is a Ludwig aluminum snare, so it has an aluminum shell, but in contrast to the Supraphonics, the Acrolites are not chrome plated. So this is not a chrome over aluminum shell. This is a pure aluminum shell with a brushed finish. That's why it has this beautiful matte finish. That's because it's brushed aluminum. A very quick history and insight into those Acrolites. Back in the days, they had their top line of snare drums and they decided to make like a not entry level, but kind of a more, they call it student level snare drum. And that's what they came up with, the Acrolites. And that's maybe also a reason why it is not chrome plated, because, you know, that's just one of the points where they try to save money. But don't let this information deceive you, because this is not a student level and definitely not an entry level snare drum. This is a very good high-end snare drum, and Acrolites are very popular these days. You can still buy new ones, of course. They are very popular, but also the vintage ones from the 70s, like this one, are very sought after and very popular because they have a very characteristic sound. In contrast to the Supraphonics, for example, the Acrolites are much drier. They have a dry, cracking sound. That dry sound, you know, became like not a student level or an inferior sound to the Supraphonic, but just became another option to the Supraphonic. You can have a Supraphonic that is more open, more, you know, wide, more bright with more overtones and more sound in general, or you can go with the Acrolite that is more focused, more dry, more cracking, which gives you a great sound. I just want to very quickly address the debate whether, you know, vintage drums are better than recent drums. I could go all the way with this experiment and buy a new Ludwig Acrolite snare drum and compare it to that one. Maybe I'm gonna do that someday. But for now, I mean, as nice as this drum sounds, I don't think that the new Ludwig Acrolites are not sounding that good, or I doubt that there will be any huge difference at all. So with wood, you know, maybe vintage instruments are better than new instruments because the wood used to be so much better, you know, 40, 50 years ago, because our planet was not as up then as it is now. But, you know, with aluminum, with metal, I don't think that the 1970s aluminum was any better than the 2021 aluminum. So another good thing about this drum that maybe has to do with, you know, them trying to make this cheaper is that it is very light. This is the lightest snare drum that I have, and which makes bringing it to gigs even more enjoyable because this weighs nothing pretty much. Another thing about this particular snare drum, because I don't know if every Acrolite has this feature, is the internal dampening pad, you know? I'm not gonna go down the rabbit hole into a debate about internal dampeners. There are a million opinions out there on them. You know, some people love them, some people hate them. They used to be very common in, again, the 70s, and then they used to be extremely hated and outdated and useless in like the 90s and early 2000s. No one used them, people hated them. And now they are kind of coming back. There are a couple of new signature snare drums out there featuring internal dampeners again. For example, the Mike Johnston Gretsch Brooklyn Standard, or what it's called. The new Benny Greb snare drums from Sonor. They even feature 2 different internal dampeners. But yeah, it's just another option to dampen your snare drum. It has the Ludwig throw-off that viewers of my channel already know that I hate. But this one on that snare drum seems to work rather well. The hoops are triple flanged hoops that I like very much. But I don't know if this is the original 1977 or late 70s Ludwig triple flanged hoop, or if some pre-owner exchanged them. The hoop that's on there right now, I don't know if you can see this, has a very sharp edge. So this point where the stick meets the drum is not very well rounded. It's very pointy. And you know, there are some hoops out there that are called stick saver. This is the absolute anti-stick saver hoop. This is a stick destroyer hoop. It's ridiculous. My Vater 5Bs, normally they last like forever. I keep destroying them constantly on this rim because it's so sharp. For example, this pair of sticks was in very good shape. And then I started to play on this snare drum for half an hour. And this is what already happened to the rim shot stick, so to speak. So if I would actually use the snare drum more often, I would definitely change out the hoops. The snare strainer that's being used is the standard Ludwig snare strainer. I don't know the exact, you know, the medium Ludwig. I don't know, look it up. And as always, a Ambassador snare side on the snare side and a brand new Remo coated Ambassador on top. All right, so here's the drum again, as always, in various different tunings and dampenings, but this time for the different dampening degrees, I only used the internal dampening system. Razorhead, as always, very tight. I always do like my 3 to 4 half turns per screw, and snare wires, again, as always, pretty tight, just up to the point where the drum is not being choked. Enjoy the drum and see you later. That's it for this week. Thanks again for watching, for maybe liking the video, for maybe putting a comment under there, for maybe even subscribing to the channel, and for tuning in again soon for a very new video. Thanks so much for your support. 1,000 subscribers. You guys are awesome. Until next time, please make sure again to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out all the stuff I've been talking about. For example, my completely free 17-episode course on hand technique. Check that out. Check out all the other stuff as well. And I see you again soon.